Hello, moms, and all that have joined us today. My name is Debbie Brown. I'm the Executive Director of IBPF, and I'm so glad that you're here with us. Today, you will hear from three moms who will each share segments of their personal journey. And we know that this journey can be lonely and puzzling at times. And we hope that their lived experience will offer a better understanding, a softer path, and that you will feel a connection to our mom community. I'm so pleased to introduce our first mom speaker, Pilar Cardenas Gimber. Pilar is a licensed marriage and family therapist in practice for 25 years, serving San Diego as well as remote clients through virtual therapy. She is mom to Anna, who is now 22 years old and living with bipolar 1 illness since age 12. She is deeply passionate about mental health advocacy, education, and destigmatization. And I'm very happy to add that she is a member of the IBPF Board of Directors. Welcome, Pilar.
Thank you. So I think the way that we were thinking of doing this is obviously we're all three moms and we have lived experience with children who have bipolar illness. And we just thought it would be really a neat opportunity to reach out because we know that we wish kind of we had had something like this when our children were diagnosed. I'm in this field and yet I was super, super lost. It was really daunting to figure out how to wrap our heads around this diagnosis and how it manifested in our daughter and in the family. So just a little snippet about my daughter, and I do have her permission to speak about her, not in great length, but she's Anna, and she's now actually 23, and she was diagnosed when she was almost 13. She was just a month or two away from turning 13, and it came on pretty quickly. She was in middle school, so eighth grade, and she started to seem very, very anxious. I mean, she was just frozen with anxiety. She couldn't really do any of her school assignments. I remember sitting with her once for like 16 hours trying to get one very simple assignment done for school, which normally she would have just done without any issue. And then summer came and I thought, well, she must be just really anxious about starting high school. So in the summer, from being very, very kind of quiet, anxiety ridden, almost depressed, she seemed to be happy. I was so happy for her because she was interacting with her friends again and having fun. What I didn't notice was that was the beginning of mania. And so that summer, towards the end of the summer, she started to, you know, not be sleeping many hours. It took me a while to figure that out because she was on the other side of the house and downstairs. And then, it kind of quickly progressed from there to, um, saying things that didn't make sense. So we took her to the doctor and she was very quickly diagnosed. It was pretty clear cut because in such a short time, she'd gone to kind of, maybe one of the extremes of how the bipolar shows itself. Gosh, there she was, a brand new high schooler with this diagnosis. And I'll never forget seeing her on the couch in her doctor's office. Just when she heard the diagnosis, she just curled up, like almost in a fetal position, and just started crying. But to her credit, she started school with everybody else, and with lab appointments and doctor's appointments and everything else, and managed high school. Very difficult for her, for sure. But she managed it. She graduated with her peers and went off to college and graduated. She did take a little bit of a break there because she did have an episode. But she's now graduated and she's out there in the world, and she knows, that this is a lifelong thing, but she's certainly accepted it and is managing her bipolar quite well. And I'm very proud of her. And what else can I tell you? As a family, it was quite difficult. You never know that something like this is going to fall in your lap and how you're going to do it and what else is already, happening in the household and family and in your life and work. Um, so she has two brothers, an older brother and a younger brother. They were, of course, heartbroken to see their sister, um, have to deal with so much. They were incredibly helpful, very, very, very good brothers, as I'm sure every parent has good kids and good siblings as kids. But anyway, so everybody knows now how to kind of help Anna watch for signs. She knows herself, but sometimes it's always good to have a little reminder. And for me as a mom, um, your mom instincts, and it's hard. It's very hard to see your child suffer in any way, and especially with something that at first she was very ashamed of and kept a secret. And so it's hard then to get support when you can't talk about it. And she didn't for a while. And her world really opened up when she was able to, and in large part thanks to the International Bipolar Foundation, really opened doors for her and really made her see that this is just something about her, just like anything else. She happens, doesn't define her. She just happens to have bipolar illness, and it presents challenges, but she's really done very, very well. And like I said, we're very proud of her and happy for her and excited. She's moving to another city now and taking a new job, living with the college roommate. So I think that's pretty much what I've got as background. Tanya, were you going to speak next? Okay.
Sorry, I had muted myself. So I just Pilar's story. There's so many just parallels to my daughter's story. So my daughter was also in 8th grade when she was diagnosed, and my husband and I just threw ourselves into trying to get her well, and we really believed that once she started medication and therapy, she had the summer to kind of pull herself together, that she'd be able to start 9th grade. And basically that never happened, and there was a real downward spiral that honestly took years for her to come out of. And when I look back at those first couple of years after Claire's diagnosis, I basically, fear and loneliness are the two main overwhelming feelings that I remember. I can still remember it in my body today. And besides being in shock and experiencing the fear that I might lose my daughter to suicide, I was just completely overwhelmed by the daily stress of these incredible, intense situations, and by the decisions that I was having to make as a parent. Medication, hospitalization. Should I allow my 14-year-old daughter to have ECT? My whole life became about caretaking, trying to get her well, trying to keep her safe. And as all the moms here probably can relate, and as Pilar had said, seeing this level of pain and your child is really all encompassing and really quite an incapacitating experience. And I really remember at this time comparing myself to other mothers. I felt judged for my parenting. And if I'm being completely honest, there were many times where I actually felt very embarrassed by my child's behavior. And really what was happening is I was hitting this brick wall of having to look at myself and realizing that this facade of perfection and being a good mom was no longer there. So it kind of stripped us all naked. And I was misplacing a lot of my anger. I felt a lot of anger over this whole situation, but my anger tends to be internalized. And so I know that I was passive aggressive in a lot of ways. I felt jealousy towards other parents whose children had more acceptable illnesses like cancer. There was one experience we had. Claire was in the hospital over Christmas, and it was Christmas Eve, and the whole unit went outside to get some fresh air and exercise. And through the cracks in the fence, we could see this Christmas parade going by. So there was Christmas music, and Santa was in the back of a truck, and they were passing right by the psychiatric hospital, headed to the children's hospital. So there was no stop at our hospital. And I remember just feeling I felt the injustice of mental illness being an invisible disease, and that I felt really invalidated. And I was angry. I was like, oh my gosh, if anybody could step into this unit and see what these kids and parents were dealing with, there would be all kinds of community support. But that didn't happen for the kids on Cap 3 at Sharp Mesa Vista in San Diego. So a lot of hard things happened, but there were also just incredible moments that really cracked my heart wide open. The nurses caring for my daughter so that I could go home and rest was everything felt so emotional at that time, so touching. A lot of the other kids on the unit did not have the support that Claire had. There were a lot of family issues and kids in foster care, and a lot of them started to call my husband and I mom and dad. And wow, deeply, deeply touched my heart. And there was this moment, it was during Claire's first hospitalization. I was standing in line to use the restroom, and this lady came and stood behind her. I recognized her. Her son was also on the unit with my daughter. And she leaned over to me and whispered that her son sees things. And I was like, wow. I whispered too. I said, my daughter sees things too. And it was this incredible moment of something that felt, just so unacceptable. Saying those words aloud. I was really grateful for this mom sharing that brave whisper with me. And when I look back at everything I was experiencing, I really realized that all of these low feelings it was something for me to address. There wasn't something external that was going to make me feel better. And this depression really took root within me. And it was actually Claire who said, Mom, you need help. And she didn't say it nicely like that. but she was right. I did need help. She could recognize, that in me. And so I felt very vulnerable, but I went to a psychiatrist who I still see today. And I went on Lexapro. I had already been in therapy. I have a long-standing meditation practice that really sustained me. So all of these things helped to bring me back into balance. And what I realized is that I had taken on too much of Claire's pain. So in wanting to empathize with her and just to make her feel like she wasn't suffering alone, I just totally took her pain on, which left me totally ineffective in helping her. It totally stopped my own functioning. Through all of this, my compassion and capacity to love has just grown beyond anything I could ever imagine. And I made the decision at some point that I really wanted to help others and to help them feel not so lonely like I've did. And I've learned how critically important it is really for every human to be seen and heard, and how powerful the simple act of listening is. And like Pilar, I got involved with International Bipolar Foundation. I attended an educational event that they had, and it was the first time I felt surrounded by parents that understood. There was a real freedom in it, and I remember thinking, like, I found my people. This is my tribe. And really, what it was is I felt connection. And just in the past year, there's a former Surgeon General named Vivek Murthy. He's been a big mental health champion, but he wrote a book about connection, and he talks about it as really a public health concern. And he says there's a crisis of loneliness in our country, and we, just as humans, have this innate need to connect, and mental illness creates a huge challenge in that. So Claire has gotten better. She's doing much, much better. She's 20 now. She's become an incredible advocate for herself. She's so compassionate, and she's just a really interesting, colorful person. Her mental illness still affects her, but I would say she knows herself on a deeper level than most people her age, because of this whole experience. And I've realized that in sharing my experience, it gives people permission to express themselves. We don't have to be relegated to these dark and lonely places. And so being open is really a gift to myself and to others. Yeah, I think that's all I have to share.
Gosh, Tanya, boy, when you were talking about how, you were taking this all on as a mom, boy, it just resonated with me. One was like, what is my daughter's future going to look like? That was one of my first, like this dream of who she was going to be and what her future would look like. And then I remember even when she was quite sick at the beginning, she turned to me and she said, will I ever get married? And I thought, oh my goodness. And, totally. And I said, you know what? Lots of marriages have challenges, and a lot of them wait 6, 7 years or more. You're going to find somebody who's going to really love you. And that challenge is earlier on. So you're going to know if they're a good match for you or not, because they're already going to know what you struggle with, and you're going to know what they struggle with. So in a way, this might not be so bad. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. And riding that roller coaster with her, it took me a while to learn that I could care about her and love her and help her without riding that roller coaster with her. Because when she was down, I was down. And when she was happy, I was happy. And that's a tough way to go through it because it's so tenuous. And it took me a long time to learn that lesson. I have learned it. But yeah, so just hearing you, Tanya, and one way that I knew she sings, and she was always in choir. And one way I was always looking for signs of how she was doing. And if I could hear her singing in the shower, I was like, oh, she's doing well.
Better, yeah.
So anyway, so Jody has a lot of lived experience as well with her daughter.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be as eloquent as you two, but I'll try. I haven't done a lot of this kind of format, but I do talk about our story. We've always kind of talked about it and been pretty open. My daughter, she is 21 now. She has bipolar 1 and kind of started really early on. I mean, she was always the kid that had the highest highs and the lowest lows, and she was always getting pulled out of class, and come kindergarten, she was pulled out and they would talk to her and talk to us and not really say much except for we kind of pulled her out for observation. And then comes first grade, it happens again, and then second grade. And by second grade, and she was at a private school, but by second grade, they had suggested we go to a learning developmental center to see maybe what was going on. So without saying it totally directly, they kind of thought she had ADHD, but she was too young to be diagnosed. So we ended up moving. We ended up going to a Montessori school, and still the highs and lows were always greater than all the other kids around. But she was our first, so we didn't know much different. And come 4th grade, she got pulled out again, and she, they put all the work on the board. This is what you need to do all day. You can do it in any order you want. And she just didn't get anything done. So she pretty much didn't do a lot in all of 4th grade until she got diagnosed. And that was, we'd gone to the ADHD center, and she was diagnosed with ADHD. And so from then, 4th grade, she started therapy. She started medication for ADHD. Pretty awful results from it. She got her work done, but she was like a zombie, and just kind of severe results. So anyways, she kept changing and changing. And then come middle school, I think we then saw somebody differently, and she was diagnosed with depression and ADHD, and was put on some depression medication. And things just, we were at one doctor, at her pediatrician, and he said, I can't help you anymore. So we had to try to find, that was at our pediatrician, who kind of specialized in ADHD. So we just kept searching around and talking to lots of people. And, again, like you were saying, it was hard. Not a lot of people talked about, mental illness, and we didn't really know what was going on. And we just kept doing research and finding different people and finding different places. We finally ended up with a doctor in high school. High school was very challenging for her. She ended up going to a private school that was kind of a one-on-one to kind of get through it. And at that point, I think we had seen a psychiatrist that gave her the diagnosis, which she has today, which is bipolar 1. That was at 17. And she was put on a multitude of medication. We were told when we went in there that the average medication that you'd be put on is 5, and she was at 5 or 6. And, I kept questioning and doing research, and I'd research every medication, and I kept calling the doctor. I mean, like monthly, the doctor would get a call from me and just saying, are you sure this is right? This is her behavior. Are you sure she's sleeping all day long? Are you sure she can't get up? Are you sure she's walking through molasses? And just, it was one thing or another. I mean, she just could never get a handle. We never had like a stretch of time where she was doing super well and able to be super productive and super happy. And I too, like both of you, my emotions ran on her emotions. Like if she was happy, I was happy. If she was sad, I was sad. And I still carry that on. It's still emotional right now because I still feel that for her. But anyway, it's been a tough road, and she ended up in a residential program, which kind of a good and a bad thing. She was there for about 6 weeks. It was supposed to be a 10-month program, kind of this program to help her launch her life and live independently. She's 21 now. She lives at home. This happened at 20. And it just kind of backfired. But as a result, she got off a lot of different medications. She's down to very few, which for her has made a big difference in her life, because she was really over medicated, which I, in my gut, kept sensing. But at some point, I wasn't allowed to go on the appointments. She didn't want me in there. And, we've gotten blamed for a lot. She's been angry with us, because of her diagnosis, which has been so difficult for her and so difficult for us. And, I just want to tell the parents out there, as we've done, and I'm sure you're doing, is that we've done the best we can with the information we've had and the doctor's guidance. I mean, we are not specialists. We have no idea. We're relying on everybody else out there. And I think, I know when Sophia was diagnosed, I reached out to the Bipolar Foundation and got involved. And I've been helping with some of the programs there and met some of the people. And it's been really, really helpful to me, because has been people to talk to, and we've gotten some different suggestions on people to talk to and different doctors to see. But I just want to, my whole thing is that, we've done the very best we can. We've given her so much love. She has a safe place to be. And at some point, I have to we have to kind of know that it's enough, just us doing our best, because that's all we can do. And she's doing, as of today, she's doing. We kind of go day by day here, but she's doing well. She's not in school and she's not working, which are two big goals. She meets with her therapist twice a week. But those are goals of hers, and I think she's close. She's just really working on herself, and she's an amazing kid, and just it's been a tough one. Bipolar is definitely tough, but she's doing well.
Jody,
yeah.
when we spoke earlier, the three of us mothers, and I remember you saying it has to be enough. Like it has to be enough. We've done the best we can. We're doing the best we can. And we struggled with, her feelings towards us. But it has to be enough what we're doing. And that makes such sense, because we're good at beating ourselves up as parents and thinking there's something else we could be doing, or something we could have done differently, or somebody who would be in a better position to help our children. And it's not really the case.
Yeah.
There's moments I have felt triggered by different things that kind of send me on this path of retracing my steps and feeling regret and like, oh my God, should I have made that decision? Did I make things worse? And it's hard not to go there sometimes. To relive all that. But I'm so glad Jody said that the other day too, because we are hard on ourselves. And it just needs to be enough. We've done the best we can with what we've known at each step. Yeah.
There's, sadly, there is no manual, and even if there was, it would be different for all of us. We all have a slightly different, or for our children, or whoever's experienced it. Everyone's deals with it a little bit differently. It's not one way, so I think it makes it hard too. And no, there's not one medication either.
No, that's a lesson I learned, that I just thought, oh, well, you just start on the medication. And I remember saying to the doctor, well, it's summer. She'll be fine. She'll be fine in September. And I'll never forget the look on the doctor's face. She was trying to look neutral, but it was like, you gotta be kidding me. You think it's gonna happen this quick? Certainly did not. That took quite a while. And that's, I think, a helpful thing maybe for people that are starting this journey, is to know that that's one of the most difficult parts, is identifying which medications in what combination at what dosage is going to be helpful for the person that you love, or yourself if it's you. And just one small aside, that talking about regrets, Tanya, it is hard to move away from those, but I will look back and say that the one that's toughest for me is that Anna was struggling so much, and she was in a public high school. And I kept thinking that if I explained it differently, or if I were softer or more collaborative or something with the staff there at the school, that they would understand and they would get it, and they would wrap their arms around my daughter and provide the support that she needed and the resources. And they didn't. And I found that they actually didn't want to. They were in the practice of not offering resources, and then families would just leave and go and put their child in a private school or in a special or alternative school. But my daughter wouldn't do that. She wanted to stay, and she said, nope, you aren't pulling me out of my school, my neighborhood school, this and that. And I said, you're right. I can't do that. I know your doctor has suggested it. She can't do it. It's your choice. So that was a very difficult one, because it took 2 years of trying to lobby for her before I one day realized, what am I doing to this poor girl? They're not getting it. They're not going to get it. And I'm doing her a disservice. So I learned her rights, like her civil rights, and I learned her rights in the school system, and started to demand these things for her. And actually had to get to a legal case. But luckily, the good side of that is I think she paved the way for students that came after her. And so.
That's a story that I have heard over and over. And I think you did pave the way, Pilar. And I know in my school district, somebody had paved the way for us. And it really, the information I found out about schools and civil rights and all of that was from other parents. You know, there wasn't anybody at the school that said, hey, these are the resources available to your daughter. And I just think about all the people that are really isolated by this, that you know, don't have access or don't have the wherewithal, their ability or the capacity to make changes. You know, there's a lot of single moms out there. I really feel for the single moms. I cannot imagine doing this without my husband and without financial support. I just know that there's so many people out there in difficult situations, and I just so honor them. The moms are heroes. I mean, it's really the moms that we have this power to nurture and love, and it's really can be the foundation for wellness. But we need support. Moms and caregivers, we need each other.
Mhm. Absolutely. I remember, talking about how difficult, I felt like I was brain dead. Like I was exhausted. And I was supposed to be, like you said, Tanya, making all these decisions, and because she couldn't make them for herself, she couldn't advocate for herself. The school would say, well, we're all about, the students advocating for themselves. Like, mom, step back. You're bothering us and you're speaking for her and you shouldn't be doing this. And I was like, that is a really wonderful concept. I really like it. except it only works if you listen to her. And they weren't listening. But the smallest of things, like filling her pill box. I felt like I needed a PhD just in medication and how to fill that darn pill box. So something different in the morning, something different in the evening, and then something would change, or the shape of the medication or the color of the same medication would change. And it was like, oh my gosh, I have to be so on top of this and aware and careful to just fill this pill box, because she was on 7 medications for quite a while, and they would switch. So
yeah, it is really, I always think, oh my gosh, if people could walk a day in our shoes of dealing with a child with mental illness, like the stigma would be gone. Like there'd be treatments, there'd be, because somebody, like the school on the outside, they're like, well, they just need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I get that, but that's not what we're dealing with here. And in Jody's story, I just remember how exhausted I felt this whole thing starting in 8th grade, but in Jody's daughter's situation, it started so young. And I have other friends too that it started really young, first child. So parenting's going to be hard, but you have no idea. Oh my gosh, no idea. So I just have a huge amount of compassion for you, Jody, for all those years trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, and it's funny looking back at it. I mean, I'm sure people judged us all the time, oh, your kid's so out of control, and you're, like we were the bad parents that didn't control our kid. And I have a funny story. It's not my story, but it's been amazing talking about, having a child with mental illness. I mean, if you mention it, it's in a group, it's amazing that every single person in that group is touched by somebody. And it really does open up the conversation and puts people's guard down, and people feel they can talk about it. And it's been really, nice because you do have support then, being able to share, and people, and I don't know if everybody, unless you really have a child living with bipolar, if you can completely understand, but we all can understand the effort we all put in, and the struggles. But this one woman I was talking to one time, she was saying that her daughter has bipolar, and a friend of hers said to her, "Oh yeah, when my daughter's acting out, I just take her to go get a manicure and a pedicure, And this girl's like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" She's like, "If all I had to do is take my daughter to go get a manicure and a pedicure, do you think I wouldn't have done that?" And it's like, just those kind of comments though are kind of hurtful, and they just really don't get it. And so it is really nice to have a community of people you can talk to and understand. I mean, Tanya, you've been such a great friend to me, from early on, when we got the diagnosis. But it's been nice because, as hard as it is for both of us, we have each other that have shared a similar experience and really can understand each other. And it's just so nice to be able to talk about it, because it's not this big monster on your back and shameful or embarrassing or however we feel. It's kind of, wow, this is just how it is, and it's really sad and it's really hard, and what can we do to support them better, or guide them, and so anyway, I'm thankful for the friends that I have that I can talk to, and the support groups or the support that we have here.
Yeah, and some of the things that we talk about are really, whew.
Yeah.
Some of the behavior is like, wow, but to be able to, a lot of people, you just couldn't say that, you couldn't talk about these things, like hypersexuality and, just angry outbursts and punching walls, and so yeah, I think it's our fellow parents and caregivers that can relate.
And I think what I've found, even though this is my field, I've found over the years the people that we had very close family friends and people from our children's either sports, baseball, whatever, kind of like a subset family that we knew really well and knew us. Only when Anna was diagnosed did we find, and when we were, open about it, did they come forward, some of them, and say, well, my sister has, or my father has. It's like, wow, I never knew that. It never came up in conversation. And so I really learned to be even more open. And obviously it was okay with Anna to do this, but, I almost find a way to bring up, when I speak about our family, I mention it just like a fact. Oh, and, our daughter has bipolar illness, or she struggles with a mental health condition. It is amazing how that, like Jody, you said, opens doors and lets people's guard goes down, and they then can share. And I mean, isn't that like one of the hugest sources of healing, is knowing you're not alone and being able to share your story, and that somebody else gets it and is there too.
I have to say, Claire told me like she never felt shame about her illness. She's like, this wasn't my fault, but I felt it. So it was really interesting. I really learned from her not to be shameful, and this isn't her fault. This isn't our fault. And yeah, she was my hero in that way.
I feel like our kids' generation, they are kind of luckier than our generation, because it is acceptable and everybody seems to have something, which we all do. It comes at different times, but I think the kids are really, they talk about it a bit more. I mean, they do definitely talk about it more freely, and I think they do. It's kind of just something they have, and acceptance, I'm not sure is the right word, but it's what they have. But it is, what's interesting is my daughter has several friends who were friends from before and come in and out of her life, because friendships have been difficult. but she manages to keep friends. She manages to keep long friends and just reaches out to people. She's really good at communicating with people. But so many people have come back around to her and have actually been now diagnosed bipolar. And it's just really interesting. So I think people probably see her differently than they did earlier on, and, you know, are a bit more compassionate towards her too. So I think I like you, Pilar. I mean, we're really open about it. She was always really open about it, but at one point she kind of got mad and didn't want us talking about it as much. And it's like, kind of like, well, we've already talked to lots of people, you know, but she's back around, you know, talking about it more. So I'm kind of like, do we talk about it? Do we not? But I do find that I think people have, you know, more people are empathetic than not. And so I think they have a better understanding and get to know you, and maybe, you know, just puts the judgment down, which is really nice, you know, because, you know, it's kind of an initial thing to automatically judge people or, you know, have an impression about people, but this kind of, I think, just brings everybody down a notch.
And when you're not familiar with it, it's always more scary. If you know, you don't know much about mental health and you don't know somebody who has it and is living life, you know, it's scary. You know, your idea is what you see depicted in a book or a movie, and hopefully that's a good depiction. But many times it's not, or in the news. So it's difficult. But when people start meeting each other and seeing that they're so much more alike than they are, you know, dissimilar, and that, like you said, we all have something, you know, it really helps. And I think for Anna, International Bipolar Foundation was huge. And when she decided that, you know, they say you're only as sick as your biggest secret, when she decided that she was comfortable talking about it, that it was not something to be ashamed of. In fact, I admire her and I think she's amazing for what she deals with on top of what we all deal with in life. That is admirable. Like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for her and for other people who have a challenge with a mental health condition, because that's above and beyond, and they're doing pretty darn well. You know, obviously everybody has their struggles, but I have tremendous respect. And when she came out, I guess, quote unquote, big. I mean, she was interviewed for our local paper, for our community paper. She wrote an article for her high school newspaper. And this all started right after she went to an International Bipolar Foundation gala, because it was a party. It was actually a celebration. She got her hair all done up and we got her a beautiful dress. And this was the first time that she saw that she wasn't alone. This was nothing to be ashamed of. And before that, I had asked her to come to it, and she said, oh no, I'll be the little example. And from being the little example of it being something weird and sad and to be ashamed of, she decided she'd be the example of wellness.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, and I really appreciate how International Bipolar Foundation really emphasizes the contributions and the incredible nature of people with bipolar disorder. I mean, they've accomplished amazing things, made amazing contributions, but balancing that with all the information and the education that we need. This is such a complex disorder. I mean, I know the three of us are still trying to figure it out. So I feel like IBPF really fills this important gap, because we're a long ways away from having proper treatments, and really just access to care is huge. So I think you're right, Pilar. Like, our kids are heroes. All these people out here dealing with bipolar disorder are heroes in the face of the stigma that exists, and also that, you know, we're still fighting with the medical side of this, is trying to get it treated equally and have services available, and You know, psychiatric hospitals tend to be the oldest, most falling apart units in the hospitals, and so that kind of tells you where the value on that is placed. So people living with bipolar disorder are heroes.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think it's time to open up for questions. We'd love to hear from you. Just type a little question in the chat box and I will share it with our speakers. First one is, how do you open up to others? How do you present this information to others, as all of you have spoken about? If it's your first time, either family, friends, parents at school, to help them understand, to help them not point fingers at you.
I think I'll just say one little thing on that. When Sophie was first diagnosed, we have a big family and we've all been very close. And she's got, cousins that, 8 cousins. They all did camp every summer together. And, she was always a little bit different than everyone and challenging at times in different ways, than the other kids. But I think we told everyone, but we also sent some information along with it so they could understand it, like a little description about it. So they could, and then early on, I sent lots of articles for them to read. And there's like I can't think of the name of it. There's a newsletter that gets dropped in your box every day. And I just would send that on all the time, just so people could understand. And I'd get a call back from one sister-in-law or the other sister-in-law or my mother-in-law. And, they would comment on it. And, oh, wow, I had no idea, So as much as you could tell them and tell them or talk about it with them, it's really hard for anyone except for someone living with it or a family member living with it to really, really understand. But I just sent along information so they could research it themselves too.
I feel like it was a slow process for me to be able to share that. If I felt really vulnerable with certain people, I wouldn't say anything, but other people I did feel comfortable with, I don't know, I would just start to talk about it, depending on the situation. And with my family and extended family, I was very open because I wanted information. I wanted a family history. So I kind of read where somebody's at, whether they'd be open to hearing, what I had to say or what was happening. Now I'm just really open. I'm really, really open. I invite my neighbors to different events that we have for IBPF, and I speak about it just like it's any other disorder or disease, but it took a while to feel comfortable to do that.
Oh, you're reminding me of something that Anna did that I thought was really, really kind of cool. So the gala that she came to, I was working on for International Bipolar Foundation, and we were really fortunate that David O. Russell, the director of Silver Linings Playbook, came and joined us and received our Imagine Award that year. I think it was 2014. And that movie was big. I mean, that was really I've seen it probably 5 times, and such an evangelist for that movie, because it introduces you to a character that you really get to know and care about, and they're a human being, and they happen to have bipolar, and you get to a little window into what that might look like. So what was really interesting about Anna that I didn't know, after she met him and she'd seen the movie and everything, she said, so I decided how I'm going to tell people. I'm going to ask them if they saw Silver Linings Playbook. And if they saw it, then I'll continue and tell them. If they haven't, I think I'll hold off. I thought that was really amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
That movie helped me through a lot. Yeah, it was like, this is us. This is this is who we are. Yeah, it's awesome.
That was amazing. So what can you share what the reception was typically from others when you did share, or what was that like?
Well, when we were still tentative about how to share it, it's like it mirrored in how their reaction was. And when we were totally comfortable with talking about it, and Anna was totally comfortable talking about it, it came off so naturally that it was like, oh yeah, and I have bipolar illness, and yeah, so I take medication, and this is how it affects me. And her friends wanted to know more about it and how they might be able to help. And she was so accepted in college. High school was incredibly difficult. It was very difficult those years for people to understand and to be able to step forward for her, because in those years it's just not as easy. But college, it's just very good for her. And again, a lot of it was she did a presentation about mental health in college, and she was comfortable with talking about it, and therefore the reception was so much different and so much more like, oh really, okay, I want to know more about this, or again, I'm struggling with, or somebody that I know is struggling with. And so it was, a lot of it was dictated by how we presented the information, and we weren't ashamed of it. It was just a fact.
I remember we were in the orthodontist office and Claire was throwing a fit. It was a really open space. So if you're in the waiting room, you could see what was happening in the treatment area. And Claire was just throwing a fit, not being very nice to the dentist or to the orthodontist and the technicians. And this mom from her school was there seeing all of this. And I was like, oh my God, I said to her, Claire has bipolar disorder. She's struggling with things. And I think what you said, Pilar, like how you held it made a difference to how somebody else was able to take it. I was not in a good place of being able to, I was still dealing with my own kind of shame about it. And so her reaction when I told her Claire has bipolar disorder was just like blank, like, oh my God. Like there were hardly any words exchanged between us after that. It was really, really awkward. But when I do like you said, and I'm more comfortable, then you start to hear the stories from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel I just like what you said. It seems now in the last several years, when you tell someone, they're like, oh yeah, my uncle has it, or oh yeah, my sister or my brother. I mean, it's just a much easier conversation. And I think when people don't know, they just say, oh gosh, I'm not familiar with that. And it's just really seems to have changed a lot. I mean, it's things have definitely evolved, from when my daughter was in 4th grade.
And I think it's a small little difference, but it's really not, is that people have bipolar. They aren't bipolar. It's not like Anna is bipolar. That defines her. She's bipolar. I have a son with diabetes too, with type 1 diabetes. And I remember they used to call him at school, because he was little, he was 5, the little diabetic. And I was like, no. He happens to have diabetes. He's a kid like everybody else. It's the same with bipolar. She happens to have bipolar. She isn't bipolar. I don't know.
Can you give any insight into any particular situation throughout your journey, each of you, like a big aha moment that you might have had that could potentially help other moms, parents, etc.? That is a big question.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Of course. Any insight, any tidbit of information that you've carried with you that you thought, wow, I want to tell the world this because this would have been helpful to me.
I'll say one. So, our biggest, I guess, regret, and again, we did the best we could and the best we knew how with everything, all the resources we had and everything we were doing. But, Sophia was on so much medication, and she felt sick all the time. I mean, she was throwing up daily because one level was too high, and it was just awful. And we heard her not feeling well, and but the doctors are like, you've got to be consistent, you have to take all your medication every day. And so it was our constant push to, you got to take your medication, and it was a struggle every day, and she felt so sick. And here we are pushing her to take this medication. And so at some point, I don't know, and it was probably after we got off of it, or after I had talked to yet another person, and just realized this cannot be good. She doesn't feel good. And I knew that, and I kept, questioning the doctor, and it was a constant challenge, with the doctor, because I knew this wasn't right. But I think just really listening to your child too, who at some point was an adult and just is like, it's making me feel sick. And it's like, at some point, I think I was just like, okay, I really hear you now. And it's like, we have to put an end to this, and, I don't know, there's just this, it's very difficult. The medication there's not one medication, and it's a cocktail, and we haven't gotten it right for her. She hasn't gotten it right. They haven't gotten it right for her, so I think that's probably the biggest thing for us, is just really listening to her.
I agree. And your own child better than anybody, so their baseline, and what's typical and not typical, and kind of what their functioning should be like. And I had those kinds of discussions too with Anna's doctor, because they just want to stabilize their patient. They're looking at that clinical side and the medication. They're not seeing how it's affecting schoolwork, their sleep, their friendships, their ability to function in other ways. They're just like, let's bring the ceiling down and bring the floor up. I remember, and if they've got some mania and some depression at the same time, that's a very difficult job, I know, for the physician to figure out and fine tune. But I think Jody, yeah, absolutely, that was the case for us too, is to continue to say, but she can't even get out of bed. It's like we need a crane to get her out of bed. She's falling asleep in school. Her friends are saying, you're gonna get in trouble. Mr. Essex is gonna notice that you're asleep every day. So that was definitely one, I would say.
I can't remember the moment for me that this happened, but I realized I was putting a lot of energy in changing Claire, changing her behavior, changing who she is. And I realized at a certain point that accepting her as she was, just as she was, just created huge relief for me and for her. It was just like, that this is who she is. She's instead of trying to change her into being somebody else that looks more socially acceptable, it's like this is her. And maybe we can live in a world where people can be as they are. We don't have to put these facades on.
That's a good one.
I forgot. I would say probably my main takeaway is asking for help. I felt, especially in those first, it took a while, it took years for her to get stable. I just felt like I had to be on top of every little aspect. I was at her school. I am not kidding you. Out of a 5-day week, 4 days easily, whether I was talking to a counselor or the nurse or principal or the special ed, folks that were supposed to understand. And I have 8 siblings, and 5 of them live here in town in San Diego. But I was so afraid that something would go wrong or that she'd have a problem and I wouldn't be there, that it took me a while to be able to trust that she'd be okay with somebody else, that all I needed to do, like Jody said, was just give them a little brief description of, you know, how they might be able to help. And like my sister, one of my sisters would take her for the day when she was, or for the time after her day treatment program, she would pick her up for me and she would take her somewhere fun or just be with her. And another sister who's a psychiatrist understood, and you know, she would spend time with her. Or a brother who, when I was so sad because I always used to make her birthday cake, all the kids' birthday cakes, like from scratch. And the year she was very, very sick in college, I remember just so frustrated in the grocery store because I couldn't find the ingredients and I had very little time to make this cake. And I remember calling my brother and saying, Anna's favorite birthday cake, I can't get the ingredients. I can't make the damn cake. And I'm going to let her down because I know, you know, she's going to be upset. And she made it clear she'd be upset. And he said, give me the recipe, send me the recipe. And his son and his son's girlfriend made that cake. And he said, I'll meet you at the gas station and I'll give you the cake. And then you just take it home. And I said, oh, that's so nice, but I'm going to give you guys credit because her cousin made this cake with his girlfriend. But thank you so much. So I should have asked for help sooner.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember being afraid to put that on other people, you know, really, really afraid to do that. Like I was putting them out. Yeah.
That's incredible. Really amazing insight, all of you. And we've run out of time for this webinar. However, this is a mom series and we will be back. We'll be back with particular subject matter now that you've been introduced to our panelists and perhaps have additional panelists. So please stay tuned for our next webinar, which will most likely take place in a couple of months. And if you have any particular subject matter that you'd like to learn about, please email me, dbrown@ibpf.org. And thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Jody, Tanya, and Pilar, for opening your hearts and sharing your journeys. And it has been, I know, very helpful to many. And we hope to continue this and stay connected with each other, because I've certainly learned from the three of you that connection is important. I knew it, but I felt so connected today. And I hope all of you at home have as well. So for now, we'll say goodbye and hope to see you in a couple of months.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.